see why we're asking you to review the slides.
So while we're trying to find the slides, what I'm going to talk about is the automation illusion. The illusion of automation. Now, I've been doing quite some research for this talk. That's also probably why the latest slides are not available, because I've been doing this up until yesterday evening. Yes. But that's faster than Linux. Anyway. But the question really is, with the advent of AI and tooling, we see that a lot of the threat modeling is and can and is automated nowadays. So the question is, how far can we kick that ball, and how far will AI replace us as threat modelers? Can we achieve threat modeling general intelligence? Yes, I can. Of course I can. I'll show you. All. Yes, I'll show you all. Once we have the slides. Yes.
AI was like,
Come on. So where's the technical guy? Okay, so I'm trying to find the AV guy. So what I've been doing, I've been researching the tools, and when we're looking at, for instance, diagramming nowadays is solved in terms of automation. I'll show you in a couple of minutes. When we're looking at the generation of threats and identification of countermeasures, there's lots of tools out there already, including Iris Risk, open source tools, that are doing this, that are generating this. There we are. Okay.
AI is an intern. It just doesn't do well with the
Actually, AI is an intern, that's for sure. That's for sure.
that's John's thing.
This is the approval.
Now you're perfect.
Switch to a couple of slides, because I think in general what we have with threat modeling is we have a scaling issue. There's more stuff being made, there's lots of stuff being vibe coded, things can go wrong, and what we see is that we are the bottlenecks. Security expertise we definitely putting security expertise into threat modeling is a bottleneck. Also, developers hate it when they have to be drawn into a meeting and to draw these diagrams and again and again, and every time when something changes, updates those threat models. So it's also inconsistent. If I ask Brooke to create a threat model, and if I ask Izar to create a threat model, chances of them going up with the same one are really, really small. Yes. So fundamentally, threat modeling is a human-centric, really messy process to come to an awareness like, okay, what can go wrong, and so on. You know. So how can we solve this? Enter AI, of course. AI will solve all of this. Introducing artificial general intelligence. This will replace all of us in doing knowledge work. So why would it not also replace threat modeling? So I've been looking up what AGI is and how far we are in terms of reaching AGI. And there's this interesting paper, only like a couple of weeks ago, where they've really tried to redefine what artificial general intelligence is in a certain couple of domains. It's really, we see that AI already is really good at math, really good at reading, writing, and regenerating knowledge. But it's really bad at its memory, reasoning. So there's domains where an AI, an LLM, Gen AI is really bad at. But it's improving. If you see the progress over the last couple of models, you see that they're probably at a certain point in time will get there. So how can we translate this to threat modeling? So we need to aim for threat modeling general intelligence. So this means that we're going to capture all the knowledge that we have, and we're going to create a bot that looks like Adam Shostak. Who's going to do all our threat modeling for us, and so we can go out and improve our handicap in the golf. Now, I don't think we're going to be there really soon, but what we see is that there's definitely a number of tools that are doing better and becoming better at threat modeling. Now, I've been researching the actual number of tools we now have and how we've had more and more tools over the last couple of years. Anybody wants to take a guess how many threat modeling tools we currently have available? 42. 55 actually. 55 tools already available right now. Now this is a combination of academic tools, open source tools, commercial tools. But what's really interesting is that over the last couple of years, most commercial tools have added Gen AI functionality. And in the last couple of years, we see really native AI, Gen AI tools popping up that are becoming really good at doing this. So this is a list of that tools. I'm not going to go into detail on all of these. If you want to find out more, come and look us up. But this is only going to increase. And this does not even cover all the internal homegrown tools. So how good are these tools? Now, obviously, we're going to see how good are they at diagram, how good are they at identifying threats, how good are they at countermeasures, but also how good are tools at evaluation. So we use and we teach the DICE way of threat modeling. It's really practical answers to the 4 questions that we try to cover. Now, if we look, for instance, at diagramming, and this is only one example. This is a tool called eraser.io. Anybody who knows this tool? Have a look at it. This is an online demo. You can provide it any kind of text, a description of a system. It will come up with a questionnaire that's really smart. You can add additional aspects in terms of performance, security, scalability, and it will create you really, really decent diagrams. This diagram was generated in less than 50 seconds. So creating and describing systems, this is really something that hasn't been solved. The next part, and this is an example, so either you hate it or you love it, but StrikeGPT is an open source tool that is really becoming good at generating a full threat. And so you can look it up online, you can also download it and run it yourself, but it will create a stride threat model, it will create improvement suggestions, it will create attack trees, it will create countermeasures, so you can knock yourself out. And what's also really interesting and important here, this was generated by using OpenAI, but lots of organizations really don't want to use public models. Like, you don't really want to share those threat models and make them, and also it's in terms of cost, it can become quite expensive. But you can definitely also run this kind of tool locally. So Adam, who created this tool, he recently also started a threat modeling benchmark where he ran StrikeGPT locally with local models, and those models are really becoming good. So in terms of coverage, in terms of finding the right kind of threats, in terms of like providing an output that is valid and that you can use, this has really become something that is useful, and also you can run locally. Now, the benchmark itself, it's unfortunately, well, he doesn't share the benchmark itself. Obviously, it's a little bit easy to game, of course. And in this case, it's I would say the latest model by OpenAI, which is pretty good. You can run this locally if you have the money to buy an NVIDIA card, of course. But how this benchmark works is Adam has created a whole set of synthetic threat models. He runs the benchmark against it, and there is ground truth models that we are going to compare it with. And he actually uses an LLM as a judge to match and see if actually the generated models match up with the ground truth. Well, that's a pretty good system, and I think we need more of these kind of like benchmark models. So I'm really happy to have these kind of like sets of public threat models so that we can use this and test this against these automated threat modeling tools. Now, it's all good to have these ThreatGPT tools or standalone tools, but what's really, I would say, the biggest challenge that we come across is that we want to bring these tools and integrate these tools in the workflows of developers. And it was only 2 weeks ago where Dipen Shah, some of you might have seen it, shared his work, or at least a couple of screenshots on our Slack channel, where he demonstrated and he has shown that at their organization, what he has done is pretty smart. He has created a dedicated Slack channel for threat modeling with the Slack bots, where he has integrated the logic on how to create a threat model. Some pretty basic prompting. A Slack channel is available. Developers can go to the Slack channel, provide inputs, a diagram, text, and it will generate and keep on asking questions on and improve the threat model on the fly for the developers, the tool that they're used to be working. Now, this is a first generation tool. It's generic, but what he's going to do is going to add context of his organization. He's going to add what's the top 10 issues for us. And that way those threat models are going to become better and better. And also important is he has combined this with working with the security champions and also with a couple of like threat model experts to validate the generated models and help the developers in understanding them. So this is good. And he compares this with like a trainee-like threat model. And I think that's a big win. Because this is really cheap. And a trainee comes a little bit more expensive. Next example. This was provided by Lucian Coleman. Some of you might know him. He's also created a couple of like OWASP projects. He's based in the UK. And what they're doing, and that is really smart, they're leveraging the available agents that we have seen more and more in the tooling that we use on a daily basis. So some of you might be using Atlassian tooling, like Confluence, Jira. There's now a new agent available in Atlassian called Rovo, and you can create your own agents in Rovo. So what Lucian has done, he has created really clever prompts to create that one, a little bit like the previous one, but he has also provided templates, examples, and a workflow that fits their way of working. And it's still alpha state, but the security agents can be triggered from any change in Confluence, and it will generate a pretty decent threat model on the fly for developers in their own environment. So that's really smart, and that is actually also the way we need to go. It makes it more accessible. Other examples of how organizations are using this and improving. JP Morgan, you might have seen it, they released a blog post a couple of weeks ago where they're sharing their work that they have created their own threat modeling tool, like we've seen before, like Revolution, but they really pushed it to the next step. It's like a combination of an expert system, a prompt engineer, and it's like a co-pilot for their developers. And they've found out and measured that they have at least a 20% efficiency gain in doing threat modeling. I'm pretty sure they already were pretty good at doing this. These kind of banks do threat modeling all the time. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. What I found most important though and most interesting is that the CISO really also called out, like, by making this available to the developers, it makes them understand why they do this and how they can do this in a really easy way. So it's not only the technical challenge that they're solving, they're really making this available to all developers in a way that it's kind of scale that can help them do this. Interesting also is they created a research paper on validating what the output was in terms of quality. And so they made available the generated threat models internally for review to experts. And so you see a whole list of experts that review the outputs. And blue is good and red is bad. So just to interpret this diagram, most of the models were really good. So it was really a useful experiment, but I don't think it's an experiment, but they're getting better at this. And then the last research I wanted to share with you, because we've seen now how prompting of like generic models is improving, but there's a group of researchers in Australia, like a couple of months ago, that have created a dedicated threat modeling LLM with trained on threat models. So the data set was a set of like financially focused threat models. And they've replaced, so they generated those with the Microsoft threat modeling tool. They have really optimized the prompting and the way that the threat models were generated, and they have refined the outputs. And they've tested this on a couple of models, and the Orama model, they've shown that they could improve the efficiency from about, I think it was about 30 to 60%. So it was a huge jump forward. So this demonstrates that with some decent threat models, with some decent tooling and fine-tuning, we can make these models better at doing threat modeling specific. And I don't think that's a surprise, because the activity of threat modeling is quite, certainly the way that we do it here, straightforward. Now, have we solved then threat modeling? Are we going to get near the threat modeling general intelligence? Not really. So, if we compare it now with artificial general intelligence, I think it works really good in benchmarks, but if you confront an AI with I would say a real-time, a real-life work example, then it becomes really hard. So what this group of researchers did, they've created a remote labor index. So they've created a couple of projects, like 250 projects that resemble really like how remote workers would work. And they focused on the ones that have like less interaction, so that it can be automated. And with the latest models, they've demonstrated that they're like efficient in terms of like 2 to 3% compared with humans. So don't believe the hype that we're going to reach AGI pretty soon. Yes. So the current state is that we're really moving from these checklists to automated way of working, but we still need humans in the loop. Humans are creative, humans can really translate a technical threat model to what it means in real life, have the experience, have the scars of doing threat modeling in the past. So how can we improve, how can we become better at this? Because we have, indeed, there's this illusion that a tool will solve all this, but as it stands, threat modeling cannot be done with a tool. You have to really do more than that. You have to learn people and developers to learn from their mistakes. So there's the awareness part. We have to translate security and the threat model towards the different stakeholders. We have to still get buy-in from all the people who do this. And that's not something that an API will, or like an LLM will do for us. And all in all, I think threat modeling is a soft skill. And, well, tools are not really good at soft skills. And threat modeling is also not about the output, it's about the process. And if you automate this, it's something that's going to be very hard. So how do we get out of this? Or what's the next step? This is what I call human-centric threat modeling. I think we should leverage AI to augment what we're doing. We should really be collaborating with AI tooling. And some of you might have seen the keynote from Daniel Niesler a couple of days ago at the WASP here, where he predicted that we needed to adapt to next levels of AI-centric way of working. I don't completely agree with him. I think it should be human-centric. But how do we do this, or how are we going to do this? We should become surgeons. Well, we should not really become the real surgeon, but we should adopt and apply the surgeon model. So how does a surgeon work? Everything is prepared for a surgeon when he goes into the operating center. So, but it's a surgeon who makes the final decision. It's a surgeon who makes the complex decisions. And it's a surgeon that really collaborates and leads a team of humans and technology to do his job. And that's how I think we should evolve. And we should also, as surgeons, really make sure we constantly study, become better at what we're doing, engage also, study, practice, and improve this body of knowledge on threat modeling. I think that's what we're doing here, right here. Now, the way to get there, and here I'm pointing to a white paper from, it was the CEO for GitHub like until September. And what they did at GitHub is they reviewed how developers are adopting and using AI. Because I think there is a really good example there. How are developers currently leveraging AI? Because they are. And there's different levels of adoption and stages on how they evolve in doing this. And I've translated this to threat modeling. Some of you might still be a little bit skeptic. Is this going to work? Well, I would definitely advise you to try it out, give it a test, do it, and see how it works. And maybe you'll go to the next stage as an AI explorer, where you're going to use AI for the basic diagramming, do some prompt engineering, become better at this, reach the next level, use AI agents, multi-step prompting, and do the orchestration of how this works. And at a certain moment in time, you could become this like surgeon-like strategist. So this is a learning path. This is not something you can do overnight. And you have to really understand how this works. So I leave you with a couple of things. Think of this as, we're not a replacement. I don't think we'll be replaced, but we definitely need to shift our skills. We need to become really good at leveraging AI. We really need to also own the decisions that we're going to make as part of this strategy. Because the AI can't or should not do or should not make those decisions. And then really also think about how can we increase our impact and become better at this, because we're not the only ones who leverage AI. Attackers out there are also using AI to become better at what they are doing. So this is a race. Now, to help you with that race, you can train your own neural network. Yes. So we're giving away a couple of vouchers for books. Don't buy anything else with this. You can buy threat modeling books or AI books. So come and say hi at the booth. And then we're going to raffle these away. And I don't know, who of you have seen or remember The Matrix? Okay, so It's like injecting that knowledge and learning how to do threat modeling or kung fu. So that's it for me. Technical figure.
So we have a question here, and then we'll come to you again.
Brooke, my question is a comparison of your comments this morning and your comments just now, so maybe you can have your comment after mine and we can tee each other up. So Brooke this morning in our keynote said that the point of threat modeling is actually more about the destination. It's about having secure posture at the end of the day. And just now you said the point of threat modeling is about the journey, and it's about learning a skill and having AI supplement your collaboration with your peers and journey. So how do you kind of rectify those two concepts? Is it about the posture at the end of the day, or is it about the journey? And if it is about the posture at the end of the day, why not have AI tools just give us the right answer, and then we can move on to implementation?
Okay, good question. I think you can combine this depending on how you define your destination. The destination is not only the threat model, because the threat model will not secure your system. You have to leverage and implement what comes out of the threat model and convince people to do something. So what I call the journey is actually people understanding and providing input, but also using the output of the threat model to actually update and improve their system. So for me, having people and teams build up that understanding, that awareness, is as much important as a destination as the output, obviously, hopefully having more secure products. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Steven said it. I don't want to repeat Come on, I actually want to ask a question of Siva. I don't disagree with the thing you said, and it's fantastic, and I haven't done all this research, so I want to appreciate that. Many claps for Siva doing this research. I've just been taking it in bits. Okay, so having said that, and being a surgeon, the thing is, SIBAs don't scale very well. Neither do Brooks or Isars or Matts or Kim's, or Adams. We don't scale very well, which is why we teach. And so I'm thinking about the levels, SIBA, and I wonder if you could comment on how we can use any tools, AI among them, to deal with the levels problem. Because I'm just going to tell you all, I'm of the opinion, even the worst threat model that finds one thing is better than you were yesterday. So, could you mind commenting on that?
Yes, so it's when I would say explained or mentioned the surgeon model, it's not necessarily only for the main threat modeler, it's really for everybody who's going to be involved. So also developers, champions, everybody along the way. And definitely there, the tooling will help us scale in a way that by integrating it in the development tools, in the development, I would say, pipelines, you will generate more useful, hopefully, threat models, but still want to make sure that you don't over-generate with way too many threats and countermeasures so that you have like a whole level of stuff that nobody really wants to go through. So tuning that down towards a level that is on the appropriate level that people can make a good decision on is really the next challenge with improving these tools.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, I'm curious to know about the threat modeling benchmarks that you mentioned. What are the primary advantages that you see other than scaling or consistency and quality? Do you see any other advantages in using the threat model benchmarks? And I have a follow-up question after that.
Okay, I told you not long, but anyway, no, I think we definitely need benchmarks in a way that the only way we can measure and see how good these tools are is to have example threat models and see how they are generated in a more efficient way and in a way that the output is useful. That's easier said than done because we need good threat models for that. So any project and any initiative to create more useful threat models is really good. And benchmarks should always be gamified. But it's the only way to really test how good a tool is at generating something like that. That's also why benchmarks are there for other models and model implementations.
Thank you. The follow-up question is about the scaling, and I know this discussion is about scaling. So, what are your suggestions in using the threat model benchmarks and adopting when you're generating a threat model? And how do you recommend a best practice of scaling it up to use it across your threat organization?
That's a really big question. I don't know in terms of time how far we can go, but I'm going to come back here. We just need to have better examples. So having more publicly available threat models and then see and evaluate how tooling can help us improve those and regenerate those, that will be really helpful. And then obviously scaling it is more like integrating it into the workflows of development. Okay.
Okay, then we close the session. Thanks a lot, Timo, for your interesting talk. And I think we have now a 5-minute break and then it goes up.